It is a beautiful sunny day this December. As we move into Christmas, the holidays are coming. There are still opportunities in our gardens, in our yards, that can help us benefit in the new year. Hi, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. Despite it being too cold for grass seed to germinate, any bare spots in your yard or on your land, especially areas where you've had erosion problems, right now is the perfect time to rake out that soil, apply cover crop seeds. Now, this is very important, not just grass seed, but cover crop seed, and then put down some light straw. Let me share why this is very important. First off, bare soil is an attractant to erosion. I know erosion is caused by rain falling on the ground, pooling up, and then drawing topsoil away. Well, naked soil, exposed soil, when it rains, is pounded by those little raindrops, and it causes erosion immediately. However, if you rake the area level, apply cover crop seed, and cover crop seed will include seasonal grasses, legumes, such as clover, for example, or even beans, and it will start grabbing that soil in a variety of temperatures. So while grasses may not germinate in the cold of December, the other things may. Some clovers will and some won't. But ultimately, that seed on the ground, then covered by a light straw, provides some distraction, I would say, from rain. So when it rains, the straw will prevent the soil from washing away. And then as soon as the temperature is reasonable for the seed germination, you will then have some roots in that soil to keep it in place. Now, what areas are we looking for? Well, we're looking for slopes. And on a slope, you can't necessarily just rake it out and throw seed down and grass and anything happen. You may have to terrace those slopes. You may have to use contour pathing. May even have to use a burlap or some kind of geotextile. Now, I don't recommend a plastic-based geotextile. I recommend a burlap or a woven straw mat, something that will stay on the slope. I also recommend, if you need to fill in areas. So it's cold, it's winter outside, heavy equipment can still cut through the harder soil. The only challenge with heavy equipment is that it cannot operate when the ground is wet or saturated, and usually your Decembers, especially in a temperate climate, will be more wet than they would be otherwise. Now, if you get snow does cover the ground, but when that snow melts, we want to have some kind of organic material in order to absorb that moisture from the snow, maintain a low elevation humidity layer, and then ultimately soak that moisture into the ground. So you could use drainage trenches, and this is useful if you make a contour trench, and then when the snow melts, it actually soaks into the contour trenches. These could be walking paths. They could be areas that you've ripped in a field with a piece of equipment, or they could be simply walking paths that move water away from your home in an urban environment. The key to understanding here is that while grass seed will not germinate in cold weather, cover crops or a multi-cover can. So in winter, your ryegrasses will or will not germinate. It just depends. But your oats and your other types of covers very often germinate. You'd be surprised. You can also, if you have garden beds and you're doing your fall garden preparation, you can put cover crops on the paths and actually brassicas and greens on the beds. So even in December, while these seeds will not germinate, as spring comes, as the weather warms up, you'll get early crops of greens, you'll get early crops of biomass, and ultimately can secure your soil and prevent erosion. Your ability to keep your soil on your lawn, or your soil on your property is a powerful way to retain nutrients, to capture carbon, to ultimately reduce your labors in the warmer seasons. I really like to have my fall garden in a place in such a way that I have a spring abundance. When the spring weather comes, I want to be working in a greenhouse. I want to be working on the back porch, getting seedlings up and going. And then when the weather is warm enough to put those seedlings out, I want to be able to just put them out. I don't want to have to till. I don't want to have to clear any land. I want to have my garden beds ready to go. And so December, November, even January are perfect times to be preparing your garden areas, to be handling erosion, to be establishing lawns or other types of biomass, and to be ultimately preparing for the spring season. I like what Jim Rohn says when he talks about in the winter, prepare for the spring. In the spring, prepare for the fall. The principle that you're never just waiting. You're never just going to see what happens. You're planning and living your life intentionally. And that's really how we build up a prosperous homestead. Now, again, it's confusing to folks, especially when it comes spring. So you may want to blend in wildflowers. Let's say you've got a large backyard and you've got an area that you've excavated and there's a couple garden beds. You can actually choose one of the garden beds to put out wildflowers. So you don't have to have vegetables only in your garden. You can have wildflowers, great for pollination, great for beneficial insects. But it's also great for some color, so that when your neighbors see this, they have that uplifted feeling in the spring. Understand that December will have less light, it will be colder, and it will also have a wetter climate. So the straw is something to look at, but you may also want to use other types of biomass materials. Instead of having all your leaves hauled off, why not compost those leaves and use them as a top dressing on your lawn, garden, or other growing areas when it comes spring? What about using straw or spent straw, used straw? A lot of times we'll get straw bales that have been water damaged. Those can actually spread out and be used for erosion management. What about looking at how the water moves away from or across your property and addressing those with basins, detention basins? I already mentioned the water channels and other methods. Now that's confusing because you can't just ride a lawnmower over that, but you can also start shaping your property to give you paths and access points. Now it's very important when you are disturbing soil, especially in the cold weather, that you know that the soil biology will be damaged by the cold weather. So what you want to make sure that you're doing is that if you're disturbing the soil area, that you immediately rake it out, apply a polyculture seed or a cover crop seed, and then add light straw. In large disturbance areas, you may import topsoil or wood chips in order to cover those areas up, but we don't want to leave bare, naked soil. Solarization on that soil, the solar rays hitting the soil will actually kill the biology in the soil. So again, you want to cover things up. Now, I mentioned solarization. What about covering things up over the winter in order to kill off weeds? Well, that's a great way to prepare a garden space if you already own the plastic or you already own the heavy mulch. Otherwise, simply shape your beds and then apply mulch in the paths and straw in the beds. Ultimately, folks, December is a wonderful time to get your spring garden started, to get your spring garden a head start, to get your abundance prepared and in the soil. And it starts with handling any bare spots or any erosion challenges, doing earthworks if necessary or adjustments to earthworks, and then making sure your slopes are under proper management. You can do this on a small scale or you can do this on a large scale, but no matter what you do, the winter is a great time to rest, but it's also a great time to prepare for an abundant spring. Thanks for listening. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. If you have any questions about your small farm, homestead, or estate, how to prepare for the new season, how to invest in your land and create less work from yourself over time while multiplying the abundance of your property, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. I have a permaculture design certification. From time to time, I'm available for paid consultations, but ultimately, I have a lot of resources at www.prosperityhomestead.org. And this has really been about that December investment, that December preparation, that fall adjustment that you can make to your property for an abundant spring. Thanks for listening.